thank you for being here this morning, braving the winter storm. I'll just take a minute and introduce myself. My name's Theresa. I get the privilege of being married to Adam. And once in a while, I get the honor of getting to be on stage because I love you guys. I love Narrate, and I love when I get the opportunity to just get to connect and share with you. And this morning is extra special because you guys get a chance to connect and be a part of, essentially going to Ecuador with us. We're going to have 4 people who are lovely people. I wish you could know them as well as I got to know them on the trip. And they're going to be out here in just a few minutes. But just as a forethought on what your takeaway for this morning could be, I really want something just personal for a moment. So some of you guys might know Richard Rohr. He is a Franciscan priest, and he's also an author and a spiritual writer. But I love his illustration of a tricycle, okay? So a tricycle has 3 wheels, right? You got your 2 back wheels, and they generally will propel you forward. And then you've got, your seat. You got to make it comfortable. You got your handlebars, and then your front wheel. And what he talks about in life when we're making decisions, and maybe you guys remember from a year ago, kind of learning or investigating in this concept, he describes the back 2 wheels that propel you forward tend to be tradition, right? Or your family, what you grew up with, your experience. And then you have your text or your belief, kind of your intellect, right? Your head on the reason why you do what you do. And these 2 wheels will propel you forward. However, what would be the label that you would give, just curious, to the front wheel, right? Because that front wheel, you only have 1 wheel that's deciding where you're actually going and what is determining how you decide what you're doing. And so that front wheel, he says, is experience. And if you think about it, it has a lot of weight to it, right? Our life experiences, whether they're positive or negative, are what steer and direct us and decide where we're going. And so this morning, we're going to talk about life experiences. And we're going to get to hear from people about some life experiences. And it's really interesting. If you're looking for a new way to kind of study and search through the Bible, I would just encourage you and challenge you to see how many times God is directing a group of people or wanting people to interact with other people. It's almost like he's really proud of humanity. At times, there's negative things that are happening, but yet there is still this push of connection, whether it be with God and people, but God is there with the people. And so how many times are you interacting with a human and you feel like there's another layer? There's something maybe spiritual you'd use to describe it, or something connective where it's the eye contact, it's maybe a physical touch, but there's a moment where it's more than just a robot of a body speaking with another person, right? We can all think about those experiences. So I just want to take a minute and look at Ephesians. This is one of the verses that I pray often over my kids, over my family, and over Narrate, us as a congregation. I have not stopped giving thanks for you, remembering you in all my prayers. I keep asking that the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the glorious Father, may give you a spirit of wisdom, revelation, so that you may know him better. But then it goes on, and it says, I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you and the riches of his glorious inheritance in his people. That there's hope and there's richness in humanity and connecting with other people. So this morning, let's take a minute and let's connect with other people, all right? So I'm going to introduce the first 3 people in our group. If you want to throw up that slide, Theresa. They last went with us in 2016. So we have some connections in Ecuador that we've had since 2012 through Families with Heart. And we just serve the families that are in need down there, whether that's building a house, whether that's sponsorship through paying for therapies, all that kind of stuff, right? And this unique group got to experience each other for a whole week, right? We just kind of ditch all. I mean, we're in in the middle of nowhere, and so oftentimes you don't have cell service, you don't have internet, so we just get to enjoy each other on levels that you don't typically get to enjoy here in the States. Scott is our first guy. You see him, he's back in the truck there. He has the biggest smile. If you want to notice Hannah next to him, she has a huge smile. I love how Scott makes Hannah smile. So the whole trip, all the time, if you ever saw them together, Hannah had the biggest smile ever. And Scott always worked hard. Go ahead, come on in, right up. They're going to be bringing out the chairs. And we're going to sit and enjoy each other for a little bit. But he's always working hard. He loves to dance. He makes Hannah, smile when he was dancing. But the whole time we were together, you couldn't help but not smile when you're around Scott. So then there's Jeff. Well, Jeff's going to join us this morning. He is like the coolest looking dude on the trip. If you look at that picture, like, who do you look at there? He's got the bandana. He's like, dude, I am tough. So Jeff is a hard worker, and he's also a funny guy, and he just takes time. He would work really hard, and then he shares his wisdom. He's a chef, and so he actually taught a bunch of Ecuadorians all these little, he's up here, and all these short little Ecuadorian women are trying to learn how to cook pasta. And he's like teaching them how you test it, and so he spent a lot of time there, which is really beautiful. His wife, Elsie, also got to go on the trip, and she is lovely. She works her tail off, and let me tell you, the head constructor, the contractor guy, so we hire local people there. We want the money to go back into the community, and they also know how to build a house better than we do. They live there, right? They know what lasts longer. So the contractor, he would constantly look for Elsie, because for some reason, she had this intuition and understood everything he needed. And he would make one word and explain one thing, and she'd go, oh, he needs a hammer. Go get the hammer. And Elsie was so awesome at just serving him and being connected there. And then the last person that I want to introduce is Joanie. And she is one of the first people. She came on the first trip in 2013, in which we also built a house. We did some earthquake and reconstruction and help with that as well. But Joanie was there with that very first group, who was a majority of women, and older women at that. And she is a treasure. She braved being here today. She worked her tail off. If you guys saw that picture where she was lifting bamboo way above her head, she is so, so strong. And I want to tell you, her and Jerry, this is Jerry Stordahl up there, they made a connection with each other. I think that was kind of indescribable. You guys talked about it a lot afterwards. There were some spiritual experiences. They got to experience God on a level on how they connected to each other, but they also impacted the community, because you should see the old guys in Ecuador that would stand there and go, look at those women. They should be inside cooking. And no joke, every single day there would be some men that would file around, getting off their motorcycle, looking at us. And they made a mark in that culture to say, no, let's break some of those stereotypes, and let's work hard and show them we can do this. So I want to show you one brief clip of some of the joy that Joanie brought to this trip.
I feel Uno, dos, tres. I feel dirty. Oh, so dirty. I feel dirty and scummy and what?
And not wet. And I pity
that person sitting next to me.
It was so funny to ride along with them. So you guys can see the enjoyment that you just get to have. You kind of let loose a little bit. So thank you guys very much for taking time and being up here. And so now I get to stop being the talking head, because I know that you guys, there's so much good richness right here that we get to enjoy together. So we have 4 questions that we'll work through. The first one is kind of an open question. We're just going to chit-chat and see how long it goes. And then there's one question, second question, where they'll share kind of a memorable experience with you. And then we'll talk about what perhaps you've taken with you since that trip, be it a long time ago or more recently. And then perhaps anybody that's thinking about going with us again in 2020, what you guys would say to them. So first question, I would say, what brought you to considering scattering on a global level?
You want to take that?
Oh, maybe we should do a sound check.
I'm not on.
Are you on?
I'm not on. I think I'm on.
Am I on?
This is a really flexible group. You guys should...
So I'm a former sailor, so I've always enjoyed the world and different cultures, and I think that an opportunity to go into another culture and experience that as much as they experience you was important to me. And I think that getting in there and just working with people, I mean, that's when you're going to learn about people the best. You're not going to learn about it in tourist shops or on a bus somewhere. The best way to get to know people is to be with them. And so I thought that was a prime opportunity for that, and I loved it.
That's a great point, Jeff. Same with me too. That I love serving people, but there's something about serving someone in their context, if it's just your neighbor down the street or across the seas, that it's almost like your senses are heightened a little bit, that you're a little bit out of your comfort zone, you're maybe a little bit more on edge, things are a little bit more heightened, and being with people in their context, in their culture, learning from them, peer-to-peer is a great experience to direct the rest of your life.
Want me to go?
You can go.
I think I've always kind of had a servant's heart, and unlike you, I hadn't seen much of the world. And it's easy to kind of serve your neighbor down the street if somebody's sick, take them some soup or something. But this took real commitment, and just to see a whole different way. I mean, you know, as far as what I had at the time was probably less than most people, but what I have compared to what they had where we went to serve. I lived like a queen, you know, and it was just really fun to just be on the same level. You know, none of us felt that we were better than them or just had any more to offer than they did. We just were there to help, and it was really fun. From the minute we got on the plane, after we got on the plane, because up until getting on the plane is scary for me. But
you were considered bailing. You were just going to not show up.
I probably checked my passport 20 times on the plane on the way down before we even got off. But it was just, you just have to have a servant's heart and be willing to work hard and have some fun.
So I kind of would pick some things from each. What everybody else said up here is, I want to travel. I, too, am a sailor, but I never got to go anywhere. I was always stateside. So I had always wanted to travel. So the opportunity to be able to go serve, because that's something that I have a passion for, is I'm very task-oriented and like to serve people. And I guess the selfish part of me is I want to know that what I'm doing is actually making an impact. And I knew that going down there and building a house for somebody who literally was living in a shack, I knew that that would make a positive impact. And there was no question about that. So that kind of definitely led to my buy-in to go there.
Yeah, the impact, kind of that longer lasting, you were carrying more than just
it's
that.
It's actually going to make a difference.
Huh. That's awesome. Cool. Well, if you guys wouldn't mind, I know I asked each of them to pick a photo that would relate to a memory, like one of their more memorable moments down there. So we'll go ahead and we're going to go in order so that their photos get shown correctly. But if you want to go first, Scott, and maybe share with everybody your most memorable moment.
There's so many, and you can see there that that's the dig site that you see in the background is the foundation of where we're going to put the house, and seeing that come along as we went there every day was pretty impressive. When I showed up, I was like, man, I don't know how this is going to get done in 4 or 5 days, because, I mean, we're not level at all, but just how it just came about and just working alongside those contractors of, like, they know how to build. That was a pretty big memorable, but as you're in a group of 15, 16 people, there's always amazing memories that come out of that experience, just living life that intense week with one another of building a house. There were so many others. The bus ride as we first came down the mountain, and chicken and bag, all the
chicken and bag.
Just
You got to let them in on the
those-
chicken in the bag
those-
story. I mean, they.
The chicken in the bag. There's kind of a little, I don't know, store, I guess, right across from where we were building, and the bus stopped there. And one time we just looked over, and there was this kind of movement in this bag, and we're like, okay, we're kind of having lunch around there, but we never thought really much of it. And as we finished lunch, out popped a chicken in the bag, and guy took it home for lunch, probably. And it was just kind of a fun thing for the group. But so many memorable, and man, watching Jeff in the kitchen with teaching those people doing spaghetti, that was pretty special too. But so many great memories.
Well, that's a good transition into my memory. So
Nice work, yeah.
yeah, so let me start by this. There were so many times in the time I served in the Navy that you'd see a beautiful sunset or you'd see amazing architecture, and I always would think that, hey, I wish my wife was here, because to experience it with somebody that's special to me instead of some dude that I rack up next to 365 days. That person,
She
although
smells better.
special, was not as special, right? So I picked this as a memory because for once my wife was actually there. But that transitions into maybe my favorite memory was the time that, they asked me to cook or help everybody cook something they typically wouldn't get, which was spaghetti. So Noreen takes us down to the market, and I picked from the best goat cheese what to put on your spaghetti. Think about that. It didn't taste anything like...
That was a pretty special moment when you were picking out.
It was, yeah, well, it wasn't anything like you would have spaghetti here in the United States.
Yeah, it's different.
But at the same time, all of us came together, right, to make this meal that included garlic bread with peppercorns that we picked right from the house. We made tomato sauce from scratch because that's all you had was fresh tomatoes. And we worked together as a team, and we taught some of the local Ecuadorians, and people from Puerto Quito came, and it was a lot of fun. We ended up serving it on this beautiful house with a pool overlooking the jungle. It sits on top of a hill. And I got to tell you, in all my years of cooking, I think that was the most special moment I ever had, was looking out over the jungle and just thinking, who does this?
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
And throwing the spaghetti against the wall, because that's what they saw on TV. So we had to show them that, yes, you could throw spaghetti against the wall. I remember that.
Did it
Which is
stick
a little
as
bit
well?
hard because
Humidity? I
there's
don't remember.
humidity. It doesn't stick to the wall very well. Okay, so I didn't pick a picture because pictures aren't my thing anyway. So
And that's why I
Theresa to
chose
just
that
pick
picture.
one.
I chose that picture because I know Elsie, she just never hates, like, the camera would come around, she'd be like, And so I thought, I'll put a picture where she's working her rear off and she's not looking at the camera.
Yeah. So I appreciate that, actually, because I'm not a camera person. I'm not a front and stage type person. So yeah, we made a lot of cement, a lot of concrete. So we made everything that was on the foundation for the house, all the mortar, we made it all. So that was semi-learning experience, because to start the engine, you had to actually wrap the rope around and pull start it like you do old school go-karts and things like that. So it definitely was a challenge, and you're pouring the diesel into the gas tank using a part of a 2-liter and things like that. So for me, and a little bit of personal things, it's kind of funny because I didn't grow up very wealthy at all, so it wasn't that different for me using, a soda bottle to pour your gas into a gas tank or anything like that. So I really, for the trip to Ecuador, one of the personal things I took with me was appreciate what I have now, because from where I am now, from when I was growing up, I have a lot of blessings, and this kind of brought that back.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that is deep. So thank you for letting us in there and get to see a bit of that.
Did you bring tissue?
No, I'm sorry. Somebody want to grab some? Anybody? You can throw it up here.
Okay. Oh, you got my big trip already. I was waiting.
So this picture, we're going to switch it over because Joanie has a more memorable story with the wheelbarrow that was up earlier. So I just want to show you how strong she really is, though. I mean, she was really showing off. So Theresa, if you want to jump back to that wheelbarrow picture, please, for her. Thank you.
So the wheelbarrow is a very interesting
Sorry,
story.
Joanie. The one where she is pushing the wheelbarrow.
Oh, I
was just clarifying. That's our team, though. Look at that team. She worked her tail off. There we go. Perfect. Stay right there. Thank you.
So I was not only the oldest female in the group, I was the oldest member of this team. And when we showed up, the poor crew, they just looked at us. You could just see their faces just fell because there was 7 women and 2 men. And 4 of the women were older. And I know they just looked at us like, we're not ever going to get this house built. And so I would get a wheelbarrow full of dirt and I would start to move it, and the cultural differences were so apparent because the owner who we were building the house for was showing respect to me, but he would come over and take the wheelbarrow from me and he would finish dumping it. And so then I'd go try to find another job, and then I'd see a wheelbarrow full of dirt, and I'd start to take it, and he'd come over and intercept and go dump because he kept saying, no. And so that was one of the reasons I had to lift that cornstalk heavy bamboo tree in the air. It's like, I can do it, I'm strong. But after a couple of days, he finally quit because he saw that we could work. And the second day, we had a new a manager, and they all called him Maestro, right? And Maestro was taking pictures of Jerry and I mostly because we were the 2 that were older than any of the others. I'm still the oldest. And he just couldn't believe it. He just was snapping pictures every time we were doing something. And by the end of the week, they figured out, 7 women and 2 men can build a house.
Yeah, we finished that house, right?
We did.
Nice job, everybody. And it's not necessarily about changing other cultures. We're not going in being on a white horse, being like, our way is better, we're from America. It's more about the fact that this family was very poor, so we were helping them on an economic level, but also very not willing to work with the resources they did have. And so showing that woman that you can make a garden in this area in order to feed your kids. She had 3 malnutrition children. That's how we found this family in the first place. And all she fed them was rice. And in Ecuador, you can grow anything you want at any time. And so there was this time of showing them, you got to get your hands in the dirt and get dirty and make a difference. You know, so we tore down their shack and showed them, hey, let's build a house. Let's clean your yard, get rid of this trash, and build a garden here so you can take care of your family. So there's just some basic care that is involved in that. Not so much this we're from America, follow our ways at all. But nice job. So and now this is open. You don't have to feel so rudimentary and like mean and you. But what would you guys say you've brought with you? You know, it's 2 years ago for you 3 and years ago for you. Is there anything that has stuck with you over time since the trip?
I'll take that.
You're up, man.
I'm up.
You're up.
That people are people. Like, you get immersed in another culture and you go in with the mindset of kind of a learning mentality that no matter where you travel, and I think everybody should go on a global project if you get the chance, that people are people wherever we are. We might come from different backgrounds, we might look differently, we might speak differently, we might have language barriers, but there's something about connecting in culture that we're people.
I should have went first because you totally stole that. Yeah, I agree. I think that no matter where you go in the world, we have all these assumptions about cultures, and we only see a tidbit of what a culture is really like here in the United States. But you go to, I think, anywhere in the world, but really we see it, in Ecuador. And if you were to break down on the side of the road, somebody would be there to help you. If you were to get a flat, somebody would be there to help you. I think that human nature is to be good and kind first. And I think that's well represented and taken away, that if you have any trepidation in going somewhere, just the knowledge that, no, these people are going to be kind first and foremost, resonates with me. And I think that's what I took away, is exactly that just the kindness of the world.
I think one of the things that I took away is no matter where your comfort level is with God or faith or just even with your own self, is that you can find a purpose, and it's going to be meaningful. So we went on this trip where I knew my husband. I didn't really know much of anybody else, but we went down there and we built a house. There was a purpose there, and we knew what the purpose was, but even more than that, there was connections that were made and relationships that were founded and even strengthened going down there. And so even though the purpose, generally speaking, was building a house, it was also giving somebody security and building relationships, and for me, even confidence. And so that's something that I'm going to carry with me forever.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bringing back some of this stuff that happens here and not even realizing it maybe till later. Wow. Yeah.
It really is true about the people. They were just as welcoming and kind and loving and funny. I think the second day, one of the young gals was asked about marriage from one of the young construction workers, and it was a great joke. And she was so embarrassed. But, it really broke the ice with everybody with that. And just,
Anybody looking for a spouse, you can come along. Apparently, that's an opportunity for you.
It was so, it was just fun. They had fun with us too. It took, some of them, it took almost a whole week to break out of that caution. And I do have a little story about one of the fellas that worked.
Yeah, sure.
We called him Whistler because he just would not look at any of us women. He would point to the cup and he would whistle. And that meant he wanted it, and so we'd hand it to him, and by the end of the week, the very last day we worked, we walked in and he said, "Hello, my name is Eduardo." And it took him all week to feel confident and safe enough to share his name. So, and some of them, it was the end of the first day, he was looking for a good wife. and the other one, it took him all week to just say his name. But, that's kind of how we are. Yeah. Some of us are a little more shy, a little more insecure about being up here, and some of us are more confident, but we all can do a little piece of the puzzle, and it all fits together.
That's really awesome. So the confidence that was built and the value of people and the interaction of humans, regardless of your nationality or what you're doing there, that's pretty beautiful.
I think another thing that I remember is also helping to build the community. So we had brought some candy down to share with the neighbor kids and things, and we kind of bribed them to a certain extent, and had them even just simply come over, the neighbor kids, and pass bricks as we were actually building the walls in the house too. So
So you're saying we enlisted child labor?
Absolutely, we did. We paid them in gummy worms. But I think that alone, because obviously they were, when I'm side by side, there was maybe 2 feet between their house and the fence line. So they were literally leaning out the window watching us build the house. And then finally Theresa and Normaine were like, let's get them over here to at least pass the bricks over. So we broke out the candy and they passed bricks for a few hours. So
that's great. It was mutually beneficial.
Yeah. And then even playing at the basketball court and soccer over, because the school was only like a block down. So building the community too, I think, was, even though there was obvious language barriers, there was still community being built too, and I think that was something that I'll remember.
Yeah, it doesn't take a lot of language to kick a soccer ball, but it's a lot of fun, right? It's a lot of
Football?
fun. Kids are soccer, sure. So kids are kids no matter where you go, right?
Yeah, definitely see that.
Awesome. Well, we just have 1 minute. We're going to take 1 minute, a couple of minutes over. But if you guys just, thank you again for being here and sharing. So if there is one thing you could say to anybody who might be considering going down in 2020 with us, what would it be?
Just do it, because my wife Hannah has a great explanation of serving globally, of that we're all created in God's image, and as you experience other people's culture, as you interact with those people and experiences, that you learn a little bit more about God's love for people. You learn a little bit more about Him, and seeing that creation in their home environment is, what better way to have those experiences on your trike and shape the rest of your life as well. So go do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it can be a scary thing. But again, to go back a little bit to the Bible, we're not given a spirit of fear, right? So I think that it takes a little bit of faith, and I think it's times like this where our faith in God or our relationship with God is sharpened, because we can't rely on what we know as much, right? Yeah.
And I would say maybe for some of us, not just a little bit of faith, but maybe a leap of faith. But do it. I mean, you've got to get out of your comfort zone. You've got to be vulnerable if you're going to have any growth. So do it.
I agree. It's something you won't ever forget. You know, you can't, it's like experiencing the ocean for the first time. You can see pictures of it, but once you get there and actually see it, it just has such a different impact on your life. And yeah, there's memories that are drilled into my head that I'll never forget. And friendships.
Yeah, that people connection that has that other level that you just don't have words for, huh?
And Theresa and Noreen, watching their interaction as you're on that trip too, that's another level too. They're great. They're great together.
Yeah.
You notice he didn't define positive or negative. He just said you get to.
And give, you know, Theresa's talking to us, but be aware, she did an amazing job. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. There was nothing to worry about at any time. Between you and Noreen, everything was taken care of.
It's pretty special.
Thank you. That's quite the vote of confidence. Thank you. I appreciate that. So if you are interested, next weekend, we are going to have a meeting after services at 1 o'clock down at the 326 Fuller. Address the kids' spaces. And that'll be an informational meeting. I'll have lots of pictures, I'll have numbers and dates. We're going to go in August of 2020. So if you know, you just have the smallest inkling like maybe, then you can show up at that, or you can get in contact with me, you know, come up and talk to me afterwards if you're like, I'm out of town next week. I'm happy to meet with anybody on a one-to-one level too, but I'd encourage you to come to the meeting just because that's kind of full-bore info for you. And as you guys go today, I just pray that you guys would get to interact and experience God through people today. And maybe you'll just be a little more present and a little more aware of the person across from you. So if you guys can give a round of applause to these awesome crew that came up and are vulnerable. Thank you guys very much.
If you would like to engage further with Narrate Church, you can find contact information online, www.narratechurch.org. We would love to hear from you.